The water was scalding hot, drenching the man as he stood in his shower, steam wrapping around him in a cloud of cleansing warmth. Each droplet, as it traced a path down his lean figure, evoked the vivid memory of blood streaking down his skin, from the gruesome act he'd committed just hours before. His heart pounded as he replayed the morning's events in his mind. The fear in his victim's eyes, the life draining from her body. The feel of the scallop-shaped brand against her skeena was intoxicating. A shiver ran through him, not from the heat of the shower, but from the euphoric recollection of the kill. His hand moved rhythmically, tracing the same symbol on his own skin as he lost himself in his grotesque memories. Outside the shower's curtain, his life was the picture of normalcy. The small apartment, filled with the scent of toasted bread and freshly brewed coffee, painted the perfect image of an ordinary man. He moved with ease in his kitchen, his every action honed from countless mornings of the same routine. As he ate, his mind flitted back to the murder. The event, a stark contrast to the peaceful scene around him. His childhood was deeply intertwined with religion, an unyielding faith ingrained in him by his devout parents. But that faith was savagely ripped away from him the day a psychopath invaded the sanctity of their home, turning it into a house of horrors. That horrific ordeal shattered his belief in a loving God, as he was forced to bear witness to his parents' agonizing torture over 3 merciless days. The grim theater reached its climax when the madman forced his parents into a perverse game of choice. "Choose," he snarled, brandishing the knife between them, the glint of madness unmistakable in his eyes. "One of you can walk out of here. The other won't be so lucky." Tears streamed down his mother's face, her eyes wide with terror. Yet she remained silent, her love for her husband evident. But his father, trembling and eyes darting, pleaded, "Please let me live. Spare me, take her, but let me live." For a moment, there was a silence so profound it seemed the world itself had held its breath. Then, with a maniacal laugh, the madman lunged forward, driving the knife into the wife's heart. As she crumpled to the ground, he turned to the horrified man. "You think your plea has saved you?" Without waiting for a response, he ruthlessly ended the father's life as well. Then slowly, with deliberate menace, he turned to the terrified child. "Remember this," he whispered, his voice dripping with malice, leaning close so that his face was mere inches from the child's terrified eyes. "Life is a cruel game, and the watchers laugh at our suffering. But it'll give you a choice." With a wicked grin, the man drew a knife from his belt, slicing through the child's bindings. He pressed the handle into the child's trembling hand. "You want revenge? Take it." The child stared at the knife, and then at the man, torn between fear and the burning desire to make him pay. It was an unimaginable decision to place on such young shoulders. But in that room filled with death and despair, the lines between right and wrong had blurred. In a surge of rage and desperation, the child lunged, driving the knife into the man. As the light in the man's eyes faded, a brief flash of perverse satisfaction appeared, hinting at his success in coaxing the child into such violence. From that devastating moment, a malevolent force emerged within the child. That very force compelled him, driving him to mimic the heinous acts he had been subjected to in a twisted pursuit of satisfaction. This sinister act forever altered his path, providing him a high he would relentlessly chase the rest of his life. After setting his fork down on the empty plate, he took a sip of coffee and stared into space. The tranquility of his surroundings, a surreal counterpoint to the adrenaline-fueled thrill of the morning's brutality. As if on cue, his eyes flicked toward the ritual book perched on a corner shelf. Leather-bound, ancient, and filled with esoteric writings that only he could comprehend. It was his daily invocation, a nod to the powers that guided his dark path. Every morning, he would read from its Latin incantations, mumbling words that connected him to the world beyond this one, where the Watchers reside. Closing his eyes for a moment, he mouthed a few phrases in Latin, their meaning obscure, but their intention malevolent. A final moment of reverence before stepping back into the world. He rose from his chair and walked over to the bookshelf, lightly tracing his fingers over the book's embossed cover before turning away. Grabbing his coat and keys, he gave his apartment a last glance before locking the door behind him. Closing his eyes for a moment, he mouthed a few phrases in Latin, their meaning obscure but their intention malevolent. A final moment of reverence before stepping back into the world. He rose from his chair and walked over to the bookshelf, lightly tracing his fingers over the book's embossed cover before turning away. Grabbing his coat and keys, he gave his apartment a last glance before locking the door behind him. He looked like any other man on his way to work, the mundanity of his appearance a cloak for his dark secret. As he walked toward the bookstore where he worked, his mind whirled with thoughts. The memory of his kill intermingled with anticipation for the next. He relished the hunt, the power he felt in choosing who lived and who died. Each victim was marked with his signature, a symbol that tied them all to him. At work, he was just another face, immersed in the vast expanse of literature. His deep-rooted fascination with ancient history and the occult wasn't just a mere hobby. It was an all-consuming passion. As days turned into nights, he found solace in these arcane tales. Mischievously, he recommended some of these chilling narratives to unsuspecting customers, reveling in the discreet game he had crafted for himself. His days were carefully planned, meticulously orchestrated. Everything, from the way he tied his shoes to how he arranged the books on the shelves, followed a precise order. Each action and each routine was a testament to his need for control, a reflection of the power he wielded over life and death. As he walked down the familiar streets, the man in the ball cap was basking in the aftermath of his hunt. To the world, he was an ordinary man starting his day. But beneath the facade, he was a predator, his dark secret hidden in plain sight. And he wouldn't have it any other way.